Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and if you're a guitar player who's looking to make some more money, then listen very closely to what I'm about to tell you. If you're a guitar player, or any other kind of musician for that matter, or if you know a musician who wants to make some more money without having to tour or go on the road, or put up with any of the other BS musicians normally have to deal with, then you need to download this new special report about how to make a small fortune by licensing your music. And by licensing music, I mean getting your music inserted into movies, television shows, and commercials. The report is less than 20 pages long, and it was written by Mike Elsner, who I interviewed in episode number 167 of this show. Mike's been doing this for over 14 years, and he's had over 2,000 songs licensed at this point in time. That means he's getting paid to license almost 150 songs per year. Now, keep in mind, most successful career musicians don't get paid for 150 songs in total over a 30 or 40-year career. Yet, Mike's getting paid for this on an annual basis. And the cool thing about this business is that you can run it from your own home studio, and you'll never have to deal with ivory tower record label executives telling you what to play and how to play it, and no shady managers or unethical business people telling you what to do either. So download Mike's free ebook on the 4-step plan to licensing success right now. Just go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Let me know how you like the book, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. We've got a really cool session guitarist, extremely talented guy. We're with Andrew Synowiec. He's a session guitarist out of LA, born and raised in the East Coast in Annapolis, Maryland, and he started playing guitar at the ripe old age of 8. Went to University of Miami School of Music in 98, and he moved out to LA in 2004. Check this out. He's performed on over 25 Grammy-nominated recordings. He's got 17 Grammy wins, including his own 2014 Grammy win as a member of the acclaimed LA big band Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band. That's P-H-A-T, Pretty Hot and Tempting. That was from a movie. That was from Money Talks with,
oh, nice.
It's like 20 years old. It's a guy movie. My sons used to watch it with me. He's recorded and performed with Seal, M83, Michael Bublé, Barbra Streisand, Marc Anthony, Robbie Williams, 98 Degrees, Joe D. Messina, Brett Midler, Brett Eldridge. Oh, Bette Midler. Yeah. What am I doing?
Right. I did that to try and trip you up.
Yeah. Bette Midler, Brett Eldridge. You did. It worked. Jake Owens, Lindsey, Stirling, Patti Austin, the amazing Nathan East, Poncho Sanchez, and Los Angeles Philharmonic, and many others. He's also worked with legendary producers like Bob Rock, Ron Fair, Giorgio Moroder, including his #1 hits with Britney Spears, Kylie Minogue, and Sia. He's done countless film and TV credits, such as Frozen, where he was involved in the song Let It Go. Chris Chico, you will like that. That's my buddy who takes his kids to Frozen all the time. The Greatest Showman. we were at he's got 2 little girls, and my kids are bigger, as I was just telling you. And one day, we happened to be in Orlando together, and we didn't go together, but we found out we were there, so we met him and his wife. Maybe it was at Epcot, and he goes, and we get there, and all of a sudden he starts taking off. I'm like, where the hell are you going? He goes, oh, we got to get to the opening of Frozen. I'm like, oh, better you than us, man. It was like 3,000 people trying to bust the doors down. It was like getting in the subway at rush hour in New York. Anyway, Frozen. Forget about my silly stories. The Greatest Showman, Coco, Spider-Man Homecoming, Logan. So great movies. Zootopia, Inside Out, Oblivion, Transformers, Mission Impossible, Crazy Stupid Love, Little Fockers, A Secret Life of Pets, A Good Day to Die Hard. That's an awesome name. I love that movie too. NBC Sunday Night Football, and the Super Bowl theme for 2018. Andrew, are you in the right place?
Definitely not.
Yo, you're not. What's going on, man? Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Craig.
You're welcome. Man, 8 is pretty young to start playing guitar. What's the backstory to that?
Yeah, well, I didn't really come from a musical family in the traditional sense, but I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and my 2 older brothers were big music fans, and my middle brother played guitar. So I think, that was an influence. And I kind of looked up to them and wanted to be like them, you know?
Yeah, that's not an uncommon story for musicians. You know, guys had their brothers playing and, you know, or the brother was playing one thing and the guy said, you know, I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to play something else, you know? So
well, you know, what's funny is, I actually thought, I'll play drums and that way we can be like, you know, the Van Halen brothers.
A band, yeah.
And I came home and I was like, yeah, I signed up to play drums. And he goes, no, dude, play guitar so I can teach you everything. And It was great because he totally did, man. It was amazing. He gave me a leg up.
That's really cool that he was like that. That's unusual, in that, kind of like in that age where like a brother's like, hey, let me help you. Usually it's like, let me beat your ass, you know?
Oh, well, there was a lot of that too. But, you know, I think it was the two of them are like 2 years apart. And then I was kind of a surprise, you might say. I'm 5 years younger than my middle. So different kind of relationship, maybe.
Very cool. Do they, are you close to them now?
Yeah, I mean, my whole family's back on the East Coast, so I'm a little bit of a black sheep in that way, you know, you might say. But
That's cool, man. That's really nice. So you were on the East Coast. What made you go to University of Miami instead of like Berkeley?
Right. Well, yeah, my two favorite guitarists at the time were like Steve Morse and Pat Metheny, and they had both gone to UM. And actually, it was crazy. Like literally the week I had to decide where I was going to go to college, Steve Morse gave a clinic in Baltimore.
Wow.
And I went to the clinic and I asked him, I said, you know, like, hey, so was going to music school important to your success or something like that? And it was really funny because he went on a long diatribe about like, well, what is success and, you know, all this stuff. But he ended with, you know, I'll tell you one thing. That guitar teacher down there at UM, Randall Dallahan, he is just the best. He's an encyclopedia of guitar. And it was kind of like, wow, okay, that's, you know, when your favorite guitar player tells you that's the guy, then, you know, my mind was made up.
Very cool. And I was very impressed with the SAT word you used there, diatribe.
Yeah, I think I did well in the English portion, not so well in the math portion.
You did. Diatribe. That's the first for this show. We keep it low key here.
Okay, right. Trust me, I'll bring it into the gutter real quick.
That's the way, man. So okay, so you go to U of M, and did you have a good time there? I mean, like musically, did you enjoy it?
You know what? At first, I didn't, and in hindsight, I think it was just the typical thing where, like, you know, college kids, they go to college to party. And I went there to like, with the intention of like, okay, when I graduate, all I have is this guitar and I have to earn a living. So at first it was a little bit of like fish out of water thing where like Friday night I'd be going through the practice room halls like, hey, anybody want to jam? You know, and it was like, oh, dude, I'm going to this cake party, you know, that type of thing. But, you know, in hindsight, I think it would have been the case anywhere. And ultimately, I got a really great education there. Yeah,
but that's why at 37, you've done like major motion picture tracks and you're like an in-demand session guy in LA. And that's a young age to be doing that because of that. Because you're like, you know, I'm going to sacrifice. But I read this today. I was in the car waiting for my wife or something, and I happened to look at Facebook, and I saw this quote, Denzel Washington. It said, and I wrote it down. It was so cool. Do what you have to do what you want to do. And I was like, man, that's spot on. Yeah, and that's what you did. You know, and that's why you're at where you're at, man. So kudos to you. Okay, but then you made another big move out to LA. I'm assuming that was like a year or two after college, maybe, or?
That was like directly. Well, it's kind of funny, you know. I think I went to Miami thinking that I would sort of do, you know, kind of like the artist thing or the Pat Metheny thing or whatever. And of course, growing up on the East Coast, I always thought, oh, I'm going to move to New York. And then this group that I was playing with, you know, as a student, went up there to perform. And I remember it was in January, so we landed, and it was like freezing cold. And I had been in Miami long enough at that point where I'm like, you know.
No, thanks.
Yeah. And but I opened the Village Voice, and it was like, oh, my God, Mike Stern and Wayne Krantz are still playing at the 55 bar. Yeah. Like, I don't know. is that really what I want out of life, you know? And And then concurrently, something happened. You know, I met my wife actually at that time, and she was really kind of important in the sense that she sort of opened my eyes to the fact that like the average person on the street doesn't care about how do I put this? You know, like with kind of like you get into music school and it's almost like this environment that feeds on itself, where it's like you're creating this music and it's almost like you're trying to make it as hip as it can possibly be without asking the question, does anyone want to hear this, you know?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And
a lot of it is you're performance oriented, like you want the professor to give you an attaboy for stuff that might have no musical value outside of that classroom is another thing that I've heard explain it to me.
Well, eventually you sort of start to grow up and you realize like maybe you want to be more of a citizen of the world, and I wanted to have more of, you know, not impact, but something. Yeah, I guess you could say that. You know, where it just feels like so self-indulgent sometimes. Some of the music that I was into at the time, you know, and since I didn't sing or anything like that, you know, traditional artist standpoint, I think I realized a way that I could sort of be more present in the world, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Is to kind of take the session guy route.
Okay, so let me ask you this. First of all, I give you to have the awareness to open up that Village Voice and nothing against Mike Stern or anybody else, but to look at this and say, these guys are in the same place they were X number of years ago, instead of saying, wow, these guys are still playing. This is so cool. Where did you, I think there's a big, I don't know if it's awareness, but I think it's like you had to have some sort of, was your dad like a business person or career, or like you had to have some knowledge of progress that's not really common at that age, unless you've been around it. It's not like something inherently that you're going to know.
Yeah.
Where did you get that? Because that's pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, two things. I had a really great teacher in high school who took me under his wing and it would let me, you know, I would kind of go to him, go to gigs with him and even sub for him and that kind of thing. And he really like hit me to what it was like to be a professional musician. And like, and all those guys that he was playing with, you know, they looked at me as like super gung-ho teenager, like, yeah, man, let's play gigs. Got to be playing all the time. And they were like, dude, you don't want to be doing this when you're our age. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is the greatest thing ever. And then sure enough, as I started to gig, it was lucky in many respects in that the town I grew up in had a lot of opportunities to just kind of sit in the corner and play solo guitar and that kind of thing. So when I was in high school, I was playing like 3 nights a week.
That's great.
And then luckily, you know, it did kind of wear on me. And I kind of went, yeah, I could see how 10, 20 years down the road, I don't want to be doing this. Okay, so what do I want to be doing?
So how did you, okay, so you had these mentors that were these teachers that schooled you, and you were open enough on your end to hear that message, which you got to take some credit for, because I don't know that that's the message kids want to hear.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing. It's funny. I listened to some of the other podcasts, and some of them were like, yeah, my dad was in the Grand Ole Opry and he wrote 27 number one songs. And then, you know,
Darren was like that. His grandparents, his granddad wrote a bunch of stuff.
My dad was an accountant. and, you know, to their credit, you know, they were looking out for me, but, kind of the narrative that I heard was like, musician, what are you going to, you'll never make.
How are you going to fund your IRA?
Yeah, you know, it's like, well, you'll either, you know, you'll be a deadbeat and have to come back and live in the basement, or
that's
even
what they
worse,
were afraid of.
You'll be a rock star and be a total druggie, you know.
Oh my God!
There's no in between.
Yeah, you're either a deadbeat or a rock star who's on a coke spree all the time.
And it's like you can't, you know. I grew up in this little town, so it's like they didn't know any different, so you can't blame them for that. But as a result, it made me go. I'm definitely the type of person where if you tell me I can't do something, I will happily prove you wrong. You know,
which is great.
So it made me from a very young age go, oh really? I'll show you.
Yeah, you know, I always say righteous indignation has gotten me very far in life. You know, and not very far, but for me, very far for me, you know, same reason people said, you know, show me a naysayer, I'll prove them wrong, you know, that kind of thing. So I totally get that.
And ultimately, you know, you make your bed, you have to lay in it. So part of that was me realizing, like, I don't want to just play self-indulgent music for a bunch of people that are sitting in the audience thinking they could do it better. You know, I want to actually contribute to society, and how can I do that and enjoy my life, and what kind of lifestyle do I want that, you know, and that's, I'm happy to say I do feel like I've kind of found that, you know. How did you
find, like, how did you think of all that stuff at a young age? I mean, I was really not very, I was sharp, street smart, but I didn't have that kind of career. You know, I wasn't thinking about, oh, what do I want my lifestyle to look like, or, you know, how do I want to enjoy myself and have a good career? Where did you get that from? Was it, I mean,
I don't know. I think it was just all that time. You know, I definitely tried to hang with older musicians as every opportunity I got, and I think that really paid off.
Yeah, that's great. Good for you. I have to tell everybody that Andrew has, like, it's so nice, like, behind him. He's I'm assuming you're in your studio.
Yeah.
And he's just got, like, so many really cool guitars, and it's not the normal. That's not the normal. Wow, there you go, man. There's a goal. I'm just looking at the Les Paul section and the Gibson section and the. But that's not the normal. Like, you have the 3 pieces of wood behind that. That looks really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks so this is like, so what are those things called? The Hercules stand, you know, the hang things that you hang your guitar on. That's the Hercules.
Yeah.
That's the ones I have anyway. So I'm just going to describe it. He's got a bunch of those, but each Hercules stand is kind of like mounted on a slab of wood that goes horizontally across the wall. But each slab of wood the mounting has a slab on top and a slab on the bottom. So it's like 3, looks like, you know, oak or pine, you know, 10, 12 feet across on the top for all the acoustic instruments and, you know, the lighter weight. And then across the bottom is all the electric with the 3. It just looks really cool, man. I like that. It's
cool.
It's like being in Guitar Center, but not having anybody play Smoke on the Water in your ear.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah, it looks really good. Well, I'd gladly listen to you play, believe me. Okay, so, and how did you hear about session work from the guys you hung out with?
Yeah, I think so. And as a matter of fact, somebody actually said that to me at one point. This somebody I took a lesson with, just like a local player, he was kind of like the hotshot player in town, said, you know, you'd make a good session player, because I played a little bit of classical guitar, and like every other kid, I was way into rock, you know, but then I was sort of getting into different harmony and stuff like that too. And that kind of planted the idea in my mind. Also, right when I picked up the guitar was like the Who's Tommy, was it their 20th anniversary or something like that? And it was playing on TV all the time. And I sort of put it together from seeing that, like, okay, there's the 3 remaining members of the Who, but then who are all these other people on stage, you know? And then my first concert was Paul McCartney, and same deal there. It was like, okay, I get that's Paul and Linda, but who are these other dudes?
Okay. This was like when he had Abe Laboriel, like probably in the beginning when he started playing Abe, or was it Wings?
Before Abe even, it was...
it was post Wings though, no?
Yeah, it would have been 89, I guess. Yeah, it was the My Brave Face. Was that the name of the record? Flowers in the...
Yeah, I know that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that song.
I love that record.
Yeah, it was a pretty song. What Annapolis was like a big city though, wasn't it?
It's the capital of Maryland, but it's not really a big city.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I was a kid growing up there, so it's hard to kind of have the perspective.
Sure. Okay, so when you first moved out to LA, did you have like friends there, or how did you were you like the tip? Did you go out with your girlfriend? Then now your wife? Did you guys move out together? Or?
I came out here first, and I think she was kind of like, wait, what? That kind of thing. And I went out, and I didn't really know anybody. I had kind of like one number of a guy that had done a similar program at UM, and I didn't know him, but it was sort of like he was the guy that you call when you move there.
To help you sort of get to know the town.
A little bit, yeah. And what I did was I put together this kind of like demo CD. This is before SoundCloud and all that, so still CDs were the thing. And it was like with a little bio, but then it was like 10 seconds of shreddy guitar tapping, crazy Van Halen, Steve Vai, and then quick fade out, fade into like 10 seconds of flamenco nylon strings strumming, fade out, 10 seconds of funky parts playing, and that was kind of like my demo. So I met him, I gave him my demo, and it's such a funny story because there's this thing you always hear like, kid, you got to wait for somebody to die in this town before you get a gig. And I tell you what, we met for lunch and I gave him my demo and he said, well, your timing is impeccable because the guy that I used to use on guitar recently passed away.
Holy crap, that's creepy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. Holy shit. But you know what? I hate to say this, not at his expense, but that's when you're in the right place. The universe put you there and, you were there at the right place, the right time. So it's like a comfortable decision to say, okay, it's so far so good.
Yeah, and it was great because at the time he was doing a lot of these custom movie trailers. I want to say it was like the first gig I did was it Ocean's 12 or one of the Oceans?
Was that a big studio? Or like a well-known
it wasn't
studio?
at a big studio. This was the movie like
Ocean's
11.
Okay, so you were doing work. Wow, that's a big movie to get
for the trailer. So like when you go to the movies, you go to see something else, and it's like the coming soon type of thing.
That's really cool. So that was your first project you worked on?
Yeah, it was. That was the first session I did.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It was great, and so the gig was like, the way this stuff works is they'll have a music editor temp it up with kind of what they want to hear. And so there was 20 seconds of a James Brown thing and then some other orchestral stuff in the middle. And then at the end, there was some kind of like rock track. And so the gig was to basically kind of knock off the James Brown funk guitar thing. Mm-hmm. And then something similar to the rock thing at the end. And it was great. It was, I'm in and out in 2 hours and I paid my rent for the month,
Wow, so that was your first gig. That's like having sex with a Playboy model first go around. As your first, not like the centerfold, but that's right. Pretty good gig.
Like Miss November or something.
Well, yeah, something like that. Maybe the winter months I would say probably. But that's pretty cool for your first gig. So right away you basically got turned on to licensing and session work at the same time.
Yeah, you could say that. Sure.
Okay. So how did that grow from there? What was the next step?
Well, just kind of naturally, composers have composer friends. So when they need somebody, they would, hey, who do you use? Oh, try this kid. Yeah, I think he's pretty good, that kind of thing.
So it was like word of mouth spread pretty quick.
Completely word of mouth. I wish there was some other way, but that's kind of, there's really no other way. And actually something kind of amazing happened. I'd been here maybe 2 or 3 years and I had a friend that moved out and he was assisting for a composer. And, I guess there was something that came up and they needed a guitar. And so my buddy goes, oh man, you got to use my friend Andrew. And the composer's like, yeah, I don't know. There's this other guy I hear about. Let me get his name from my friend. And it turned out it was me, actually.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So he had 2 people endorsing you at the same time.
And that's understandably, the thing is, man, and I totally get it, but everybody's very paranoid to try somebody new because everybody's always under the gun, and it's studio time is expensive and time is money and all that stuff.
Sure.
And so I understand it. And that's kind of the way it's like, you have to have 3 people recommend you before somebody will give a new guy a shot, kind of.
Or someone die.
Right.
Wow. What a good story, man. Okay. So let's talk about some of the artists that you've played with, because they're pretty interesting. And I was curious if for each one of these, maybe you could talk about how you got the gig and the nature of the engagement, and maybe a cool story about working with them, if you did work with them. Because the first one I was going to say was Barbra Streisand. I had someone else, but she wasn't in the studio at the time. I don't know if she came in with you or what.
No, and that was actually a demo that I did for my friend Chris Walden. He's an arranger, and he's always kind of doing projects. And, I just get an email, hey, do you have time to put some guitar on this the next couple of days? And I did, and I sent it back, and the demo ended up becoming the master.
That's awesome, man.
And actually, that record got nominated. I don't think it won, but it did get nominated for a Grammy. It's crazy.
That's phenomenal. How about Seal?
Yeah, that was a crazy story. Because I had been up all night the night before. My dog was sick, but like deathly ill. Like literally, he was at the emergency vet, and we thought he wasn't going to make it. Luckily, everything worked out great. But
cool.
But I had been up all night, and I remember I got the email. Most of this work comes in via email now. So I remember I saw the email, and I just, it's like Capital Wednesday, 10 a.m. type of thing, Okay, great, I'll be there. And I saw something about SEAL, and I swear I just heard like a story about SEAL Team 6. And I think in my mind, I just kind of went like, oh, it's like a documentary about SEAL Team 6 or something.
Sure.
So I show up at the studio, and it's like I hadn't slept at all. And I walk in, and I look around, I'm like, this doesn't look like a movie session. I go, oh, here's my stuff. I sit down, and I went, oh, Seal. Oh, nice.
That's cool.
I mean, he's amazing. I love his music, so it was super exciting.
What was it? Like was that a demo or a?
That was a record. He did like a standards record, I guess. And so it was sort of like, I think he wanted to sort of do the Frank Sinatra thing.
Sure.
And that's the room where they did most of those classic recordings.
Very cool, man. How about Nathan East, man? He's such a good player.
He is. He's amazing. My hero. That was just another like random call from a contractor. Like, hey, are you available? We're putting together this session, such and such. I think it was at United or something like that. It was great. It was the first time I got to play with Vinnie Colaiuta, who's another hero.
Oh, my God. What was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, these guys are just normal guys, but then they sit to play the drums, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, anybody who plays with Jeff Beck for X number of time like he did is, like I interviewed Jennifer Batten. She played with him for 3 years.
Yeah.
And she said, and she's so talented, and she said, I wasn't really sure why he needed me, but like, how would anybody feel Jeff Beck needs them?
Right.
I mean, seriously, like, the guy is like not of this earth.
He's probably the best living guitar player.
I mean, as far as what he could do, I mean, and it does all this without a pick.
Yeah.
It was just nuts. I mean, it's impossible.
Is that a Jeff Beck Strat hanging up behind you there?
It actually is, yeah. Not the custom. It's just the regular, floor model Jeff Beck's, not the custom one. It's great. It's so easy to play. I don't sound anything like him, oddly enough, but and I got that 335. I sound nothing like Freddie King either, so I'm considering refunds, but it's still under advisement.
Right.
Yeah. So and I interviewed 2 of his guitarists, and I asked them both, like, what's the magic? And they're like, they can't even answer. They're both like as amazed about what he does as everybody else is. And they played with him next to him for, one case a year, one case 3 years. So, I mean, he's just that guy.
Yeah.
And how about the Super Bowl theme, man? How'd you get that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. So John Williams actually wrote all those themes, back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then I think they came to him again and said, hey, we want to like update these and make them more modern, whatever. And he actually pawned it off on his friend Randy Kerber. he's a piano player in town. He's been like one of the top piano players for like 30 years. And he also does some writing. So Randy called me up and said, hey, I have this project. We need to put guitars on it. And came over and we did it here.
Did you know it was Super Bowl for the...
Yeah, he told me. And I guess they're using it now going forward, too, as kind of like their new branding thing.
That's really cool, man. So, like, is anybody in your family like a big sports fan that would be like, yeah, that's awesome?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I grew up with the Redskins, so it's like, it's hard to be a football fan. Exactly. So you've basically done what you've wanted to do since moving out to LA. Is there anything else like on your agenda for, okay, this is what my next sort of thing I want to do, or and I don't mean like, or do you just want to stay doing sessions, or do you want to continue doing session work and seeing what happens out of that? Yeah, I'm really happy kind of where I am right now.
For you, man.
I can tell you I heard this quote recently that I really liked, and it was, what was it here? Okay, so for a freelance person, any kind of freelance work, eventually you want to get to the point where when you get an ask or a bid or, hey, would you be interested in doing this thing? Where when you see that email, if your initial response isn't hell yes, it should be no.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that several times.
Yeah, and so I definitely, it's not like a New Year's resolution or anything like that, but it's something I've sort of started to keep in mind.
Yeah, if you're not overly enthusiastic about it, it's always a catch-22, I think, because especially as a creative person, because you're always open-minded, so you hate to sort of like shut down something because you don't know what something can evolve into,
Right.
And so I guess it's always hard to, but certainly if you're like, then you should definitely say no.
Yeah. And part of it is, I mean, for the last 20 years, I did the exact opposite. I said yes to everything. So, which is another good philosophy,
Yeah. And most of the successful guys I've interviewed have had that philosophy that, including Darren and, everybody. Yeah. It's like, you got to hustle and hustle and hustle until you get to the point where you can say no, So that totally makes sense. Let's talk about some of those beautiful guitars behind you, man.
Sure.
What's your primary go-to guitar, assuming that you not have to think about, okay, I need this guitar for this part? I mean, the one you like to play the most that you reach for.
Yeah, I have a Les Paul. It's my go-to for sure. Here, I'll show it to you.
What about it is cool? Burst.
Yeah.
Is that a custom or standard or a traditional?
It's a fake.
Oh, it's a Gibson?
It's it says Gibson, but funny story. I was doing a session for a film composer named John Debney, and he's also a guitar player and guitar collector. He's got this great studio that it looks like the Guitar Center vintage room, And his son plays guitar too, and has a studio across the hallway kind of. So I was there working, and I'm wandering around, and I wander into his son's room, and I see this Les Paul, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to pick this thing up. The first thing I noticed is it was the lightest. I mean, it's almost one of the lightest guitars I've ever picked up, but let alone for a Les Paul,
Sure.
I'm like, well, what's going on with this thing? And I plug it in. I'm like, dude, this thing is amazing. What is it? He goes, oh, my buddy built that. And it's anyone looking at it would think, oh, wow, is this like an actual 59,
Right.
And it's completely hollow. So it weighs a lot less, and it gives it kind of a unique tone. And I ended up, it was kind of funny, was that thing where I was in another room where they couldn't see me. And John had recently gotten a vintage 335 or something, and he had me. He's like, "Oh, you got to check out my 335," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," And but all I wanted to do was play this Les Paul, So the whole day he's going, "Man, that sounds great. Is that my 335?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm on the Les Paul the whole time, And it was amazing. I just really fell in love with it, and I got the guy's number. I called him up, and he said, yeah, I built that for Josh, and I guess I could do another one, but I'm building these guitars for the Killers right now, and If I said it'd be 6 months from now, realistically, it'd probably be 2 years before you saw anything. And I don't know, man. I don't want to promise you anything. So I sort of forgot about it. And then it's that thing where like months go by, and you're like laying awake at night going, man, remember that guitar? And so finally, I texted Josh and I just said, hey, gosh, I hope I'm not out of line, but that Les Paul, I just can't stop thinking about that guitar, man. It's like, is there any way, like, would you ever consider selling it? And he texted me back right away. He said, dude, I was just looking around my studio going, I got too much stuff. I would love to sell you this guitar and have somebody actually be playing it.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, dude, I'll be there in 10 minutes.
So you sold it to you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so funny.
Yeah. And it's cool because like people always go, oh, wow, I can't believe you're playing a Les Paul. That doesn't sound. I'm like, yep.
Do you know what kind of pickups are in there or anything?
Yeah, I asked the builder, and he said that he hand wound them. I think it's a 59 spec or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
And then I did something cool. I took it. There's a guy in town named Fred Askin. He's a luthier and guitar repairman. He builds his own guitars too. And I took it to him, and I had him do this thing where instead of like a tone for each pickup, there's just a master tone, and then this other tone here. People listening can't see, but that's all right. The other tone is actually like a bass cut. So like a lot of times, like on a Les Paul and the neck pickup, you want to be there to play up high, but kind of playing down low gets muddy. So if you roll off the other tone, it's actually cutting bass. And it's super useful in the studio too, because it kind of doesn't get overly beefy or anything like that. I mean, it can if you want it to. But.
So now you got a custom Les Paul.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's killer.
So what would be your other two guitars that round out your top three, let's say?
I have a nylon string that I got. There's a builder in town named Greg Brandt, and he built guitars like for Tommy Tedesco. And just one of those guys I always thought, man, one day I want to own one of those. So I went to his shop, and I played what he had available, and I was really disappointed because I didn't fall in love with anything. And he goes, well, I had this apprentice. She's the best apprentice I've ever had. And I have one of her guitars here. You might like it. And same deal. Like I put it in my hands and it was instantly, it was like, I have to have this.
But I think most, I don't consider myself a guitar player, but any guitar I've bought that it's usually how it is. It's not usually like you warm up to it. It's funny. Guitars aren't.
Oh, really? Yeah.
You just like, wow, this has got something here. Let me explore this, And what would be number three? So you got the fake Les Paul, the nylon string.
I have an old Silvertone. I want to say it's 64, and it's just one of those guitars. Like anything you play just sounds kind of like old and cool.
Man, I played a bunch of harmony guitars like that. You ever play? Same as that. So they're really cool. They sound wonderful, man. I really dig them. Very cool, man. Any cool stories besides the one you just shared with us about the Les Paul behind how you got any of these guitars or any of your guitars?
No, that's kind of the Les Paul story is kind of the one. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at this Martin. I got that was a good day. That was maybe 2 years ago on my birthday. I went guitar shopping, and
that's always fun.
Yeah. It's a great guitar.
That's cool. Is it old? Is it a vintage one? Older one?
It's I want to say it's a 70. I don't know. I forget. 72 maybe. So it's not pre-war thing. But
what's the place out there to buy guitars?
Oh man, there's so many. I think I got that one at Norman's Rare Guitars. There's a couple other. There's a place called Imperial Vintage. They have 2 locations. That store is cool. So yeah, so many.
Yeah. Not
Guitar Center.
Yeah. Is there who has influenced you, or do you have any players that have influenced you that people might be surprised to hear?
Mostly just my teachers, and now I have some mentors who I can kind of call, guys I look up to. There's a guy out here named George Deering, and he's not a household name, but he's probably like the most recorded guitar player alive right now. And he all he does all day long is play on movies and records, and And he's just the nicest, sweetest, most humble guy. So like, he doesn't have a website. He doesn't, he just doesn't have time for any of that.
How old is he?
I want to say he's probably 60, late 50s, early 60s, something like that.
The reason I ask is because there's a guy in Nashville called Reggie Young, who's supposed to be the most recorded guy alive. And I'm actually having him on my show in a couple of weeks, and he's made made a CD.
Nice.
It's called Forever Young, and it was so cool. And I talked to him and his wife, and they're just like such nice people, and I felt like I was a guest at their house when I was talking on the phone with them. They were just real cool. And so I said to her, I said, hey, let's promote Reggie's CD on the show. I said, if you could just put it in the Dropbox, I'll listen to it, and then we could chat about some of the songs. She goes, oh, no, I'll send it to you. I said, well, you don't have to do that. I don't want to put you out. She goes, no. So he sends it to me, and he's like, autographed it. Hey, Craig, peace, Reggie. I thought it was just like so like, this guy's like supposed to be the most recorded musician alive, and he's like just such a cool dude, like just the most humble human being.
It's amazing. It's it's so great to see him work. I mean, and I think I asked him one time, like, I don't know, it was some ridiculous thing where it was like, okay, now stand on your head, and now do somebody was asking him to do just and I just said, like, man, George, don't you ever get upset? And he goes, well, what good would that do? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah. I love it, man.
That's what happens when you get older. You could think like that a little better.
Yeah. You
realize all the stupid shit you did and all the energy you wasted on stuff that you had no control over anyway. So what the hell?
Exactly.
Hey, last question about music. If I had to ask you what your top 3 Desert Island discs would be, in no particular order, and knowing that they could change tomorrow, what would be your top 3 Desert Island discs today?
I'd have to have a Pantera record in there.
Interesting.
One of the first 3. Yeah, let's go with Vulgar Display of Power.
That's funny. You do not look like a Pantera fan.
Yeah, I know, but that's,
No, that's totally cool. I just wasn't expecting to say Pantera.
Yeah. I just cut off my red goatee yesterday, that's why.
Did you? No, plus you're like intellectual. I thought you were going to say like The Police's 3rd album. Because you're a very intellectual guy, so I figured and I know you're always thinking that kind of guy.
Yeah. So, okay, that'd be number 1. And then there's a Wes Montgomery record called Smoking Out the Half Note.
I want to check that out. A couple of people have mentioned that to me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then Dixie Dregs, Steve Morse, they are they're reforming. All original members going on tour.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. Does that mean he's not playing with Purple anymore? Are they on hiatus for a while?
I think they're on hiatus, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'd see that tour in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I'm sure they're playing in Florida.
I hope so. I have to interview somebody there so I can get tickets.
Nice. They'd probably be up for it, man. I'm sure.
Yeah, if they got something new in a tour coming out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, what's something that you've learned about yourself along this journey so far? I mean, you're still young and you got a lot to go, but I really, congratulations. And I said that before. You've really done a lot.
Thanks. I'd say, I'm resilient. Everybody hits bumps in the road, but you just got to keep your eye on the prize, I guess you would say, and just keep on keeping on.
If you could change something about yourself, what would it be?
That I work too hard, I think.
You'd like to chill a little more?
Too much, yeah. It's hard to turn off, but that's all right.
It's pretty normal. I mean, I don't know too many successful people who are like, that's, you're type A or you're not, and it is what it is, Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
We have 2 Siberian Huskies, and they are shelter dogs that we got when they were like 4 and 5 years old. And whoever had them before did not take very good care of them.
That's a massive dog to not take good care of.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I knew the backstory. But so we're like we've turned into total dog geeks. And I go to the park every Saturday and Sunday to this dog training thing.
Man,
it's awesome, man. It's really cool.
They're wonderful. They're just My dog is 14 and a half. She's on her last legs, and I am miserable about it, man. It's really sad. She's spent every day with me because I work at home for 20-something years, and I feel you. Dogs are great. Animals are great, man. They're comforting. They're always there for you. They're never going to push you away. It's just they're very comforting, especially the little furry ones, man. They cuddle up against you, it's all cool stuff, man.
It's the greatest.
Very cool. I'm glad you get to enjoy. I'm glad you rescued those dogs, man.
Yeah.
Most important thing your dad taught you. Debits on the left, credits on the right.
Yeah, right. That's a good question. I would say work hard and keep your mouth shut.
It's a good lesson. Did it work? Did you pay attention to it?
Yeah.
Good. How about mom? Most important thing your mom.
Be curious and have a sense of humor.
Do you get to see your family a lot?
Not enough. We go. It's cool. My wife is also from outside of DC, so we sort of can kind of go back and see everybody at the same time. So that.
Do you have a non-musical superpower?
Many people have told me that I have musical ESP.
So what does that mean?
Well, like artists or producers in the room, and they say, I want to sound like a train going through Antarctica at midnight with it's something that kind of doesn't really make any traditional sense. But then I'll go, oh, you mean like this? Yeah. How did you know? So, and multiple times they've been like, it's like you can read my mind. So
that's awesome. Keep doing that. It's guaranteed employment. Well, I know those are the kind of requests because I've talked with guys who do a lot of licensing, and one of the example that he used was that they'll tell you something like, I need this to sound more purple.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you guys got to figure out what the hell that means and then give it to him. And sometimes they'll come back, make this a little more James Brown.
Totally.
These very vague, sort of instructions that you have to within a moment's notice fix, which is the tough part. Yeah,
that's the gig. It's crazy, but I enjoy that element of it.
Yeah, I could see enjoying it. It's challenging and it's rewarding once you nail it, and to nail it consistently, you build up this skill set of being able to deliver stuff instantly, which is what being a session guy is all about anyway.
Yeah.
What's a perfect day to
you? Pour a big cup of coffee, do a little practicing, walk the dogs, maybe play an easy session with some fun music, and have dinner with the wife.
Very cool. Drama free. I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
You have any bad habits?
Buying too much gear.
That's a bad habit?
Well, it's the thing is, because you go, well, it's for work. I mean, I'll use it. It's going to, but it's like, you can do that till you're broke,
Yeah. But I don't know any professional guitarist that doesn't have a lot, especially session guys.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a lot of gear, because you could always, if you don't have it, you don't miss it. But if you have it, all of a sudden you're like, hey, that would be really good here.
Completely.
So I totally get that. Outside of your dogs, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Not really. I think people who do this for a living, it's kind of like it's like you being a monk or something, or maybe more like having a disease.
No, well, your hobby is your career.
Yeah,
in a sense, Anything you're trying to improve on, whether it's musically, personally, business?
Less time online looking at gear, and also less time on social media, which I'm pretty good about that as it is, but I don't know, that whole thing is just so stupid to me, but it's the times we live in, I guess. Yeah, it's funny. I just had somebody write me on Facebook about a gig. It's like,
wow, dude,
really?
That's
so
wild.
As a result, I check it every couple of days, but that's kind of it.
So they wrote you like messaged you on Facebook?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just shooting you an email or text.
Yeah, I think it was like, oh, I didn't have your, but.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a challenge you're in like that middle generation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because like I think probably 27 to 37 is that, because my older son is 27, and he's like, he didn't grow up with a cell phone. He's like, Dad, I'm so happy I learned how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Where my daughter's 18, and she'll have 4 friends over the house, and I'll walk in and they're all on their phone.
Dude,
sitting
it's
there.
so ridiculous.
And I'm like, and they think they're socializing, but they don't realize you don't get the same skills on a phone that you do talking to someone face to face. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Who's had the biggest influence on you?
Oh, definitely my wife. Yeah.
Yeah, you've spoken highly of her since we've been on this call, and even before we turn on the recorder. So you're in well. You're in good. Play this for her. So last question, Andrew, and I really appreciate your time. What's the biggest change in your personality been over the last 10 years, and has it been deliberate or just through aging?
I have a lot more stability in my life now, financially, professionally, all over the map, I guess you would say.
That's a great change.
Yeah, and it actually allows me to take more risks.
Yep. Yeah, for sure, man. Because you're not living, day to day or whatever. And
yeah, it's definitely one of the things that I think, if I can impart any wisdom to younger musicians, it would be like, just try and avoid that feeling of having to say yes to everything.
Well, you don't.
You have to value your time and your skill set.
But you can't do that. It's like, it's like you're a white belt, then you got to be a yellow belt. And you don't always have to go linearly. You can skip from white to, whatever, green maybe, but you usually can't go from white to red or white to black overnight.
Yeah. And sometimes that's frustrating too, because you want it to be a linear process and it's not. But that also, it's good. It keeps you humble. It's like, I'll do some session and I'm like, this is amazing. It's exactly what I always dreamed about. And then the next day it's like, something I don't want to be doing.
Close your eyes and get through it quick.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. So listen, let me tell people where to find you online. That you're not going to be there, but I'll tell them where to find you.
Don't write me.
First of all, check out Andrew's website. He's got some really cool videos of how he first started. Those videos are well done, actually. That one that I said, you think you told me your buddy helped you with, or?
Yeah, thanks. He moved out here to do film work and to like making movies, and I think they're starting a thing where they do promotional videos for small businesses, and he actually asked me to be his guinea pig, and it turned out great. It
turned out good, and I'll tell you from a marketing standpoint why it turned out good is because you didn't talk about yourself. If somebody wants to hire you, you talked about, I'm in the service business here, and I'm going to provide a service. And I think that gets lost on new people for sure. The guys that are in the session, older guys that are in they know that they're in the service business, and it's all about, how can we serve the song, so to speak. But that was really good that message came there. So if you're looking to hire a session guy in LA, go to Andrew Synowiec. I'll give you his spelling. It's Andrew, Andrew, and his last name is Synowiec. It's Synowiec. So andrewsynowiec.com. And the same thing on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Oh, I don't know what the hell you are. But check him out. Yeah. He's a great player. He's done tons of like top line movies, and he's got a huddled experience, and he's got awesome hair. So yeah, man, I'm watching you play with your hair. I'm like, man, I was thinking this is what's really weird when you lose your hair. It's like, I do remember that. Sometimes you don't really, I guess it's like some people I've heard on interviews and they lost a limb. They still feel like they have their leg. I still feel like I have my hair, like I can put my hand back over and I can feel the hair going over it, but I never see it in the mirror. So
I'm looking forward to transitioning into like token old studio guy that still has ridiculous looking hair.
Yeah.
So I'm prepping for that now.
You're well prepped. It's a rock star. I think seriously, I think there's a genetic component that leads people to music. Because you rarely see a guy that looks like me as a musician who's bald. I mean, you just don't see it all. It happens once in a blue moon. Yeah. But by and large, like I interviewed, who Andy Timmons is?
Oh, of course,
okay, yeah. So I interviewed Andy. He's my age. He's got a nice long head of hair.
Yeah. He's another alum, actually.
That's right. Did you know him in school? No, he's much older.
No.
Yeah, he's
no, but I definitely knew of him, and that was like another, like, oh man, I should go there. You know,
he's a great player, and let me tell you, as great a player as he is, he's a great that much of a person as well. He's a hell of a nice guy, man. Just a real sweet, really sincere, authentic human being. Very cool dude, man.
Cool.
All right, man. Listen, I really appreciate your time. And check out Andrew Synowiec online, AndrewSynowiec.com. If you're listening to this out in L.A. and you're looking to hire a studio person and you haven't come across Andrew yet, check him out, and you won't be sorry. He guarantees it. And that's it, man. Any final words?
I always forget to mention I use and love Elixir strings and Royer microphones and Mogami cables. And yeah, to younger players especially, feel free to reach out to me. I do this guitar player hang like every couple of months where we just get together and I try and get everybody to meet. Dude,
that is very cool of you. Do you do that like a meetup.com? Or?
Yeah, well, I've started doing it actually. We the last one we did on a Saturday morning at 9:30. So it's like no one can come in and be too cool for school, you know, because it's like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, everybody's got to be
and
there.
It was great. We had there was like a kid who was still in high school and some like legendary guys. Kind of all.
That is so cool of you to do that, man. Like to give back like that. I think that's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
Very cool. And is there like a page for that or something, or just reach out to you on your,
if they people can
form
write me, I guess, and I'll put them on the email list.
And that's taking good to your contact form on andrewsynowiec.com?
Yeah, they can just hit me up there.
Okay. And if you mention Everyone Loves Guitar, you get a discount to the meeting.
Exactly.
Hey, man, thank you for your time. I appreciate everything, and I wish you continued success, man. You've done really well, and I'm happy for you. And I'd like to come back in 3 or 4 years and see what's going on. Check in.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again, Andrew Synowiec, for spending time with us. I really appreciate it, and much continued success to you. And go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes and along with the cool stuff we're rolling out. And remember that happiness is a choice. So be nice, be happy, and go play your guitar and have fun most of all. Till next time, peace and love, and I am out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.